Hello and welcome to Smaulgld. In case you missed the top gold, silver, and crypto stories for the weekend of June 24th, 2018. What's next for Mueller? Was bias the basis for the Russian probe? If it is, that may end it. IG Horowitz goes to the House and Senate. Here are some of the other stories we're going to cover. Comey, McCabe struck Rosenstein under legal jeopardy. Supreme Court paves the way for states to force online realtors to collect taxes that would include online bullion dealers. Russia, Kazakhstan add to gold reserves. Trump ratchets up the tariff talk. Cryptos collapse, gold and silver flat. And a report says that Tether is backed by the dollars. Let's first get into the prices of gold and silver before we head to the top stories and the analysis. Also, just keep in mind we are streaming live on YouTube every evening at 8 p.m. if you'd like to join. It's a live stream. The program is about a half an hour to an hour. You can participate and ask questions during it. I've listed here for your convenience the ones that we've done for the past week. Is owning hard assets a good idea? What do Russia's gold purchases and treasury dumps mean for the dollar? What would happen to gold and silver in an economic boom? Crypto's smashed, gold and silver flat. Are alternative investments doomed? So you can check those out. You can go back. And also, the very popular Smaulgld's Moronica is now up for the week ended June 23rd, 2014. So please check those out. Why have borders? And it just doesn't matter. Those are the live streams we had during the week. All right, gold and silver. Gold closed down about 10 bucks. Silver closed down about 12 cents. So both were down during the week. The gold-silver ratio fell a little bit during the week. It's hovering around 77, down from a high earlier this year from around 82. Let's move on now. There was one interesting note. It didn't fall under any of the particular categories we cover, but GE was dropped from the Dow. Now, GE has been in the Dow for, I don't know, 100 years or so. Since 1907, more than 100 years. There you go. I think it was replaced with some company like Walgreens, something like that. One of those CVS-type drug companies. All right, let's talk about the IG report, because the IG report was very important. And the reason it was important was it put together in one place all of the indications and pieces of evidence of bias at the top levels of the FBI. And that bias, it would appear to, I would say, impartial observers, that there was bias in the way they conduct the investigation, not just by the statements they made about Clinton and about Trump, but just the unorthodox way that they went about conducting an investigation. They did not look like they were trying to find anyone guilty. In fact, it was determined that no one was considered a subject under the investigation. They called it a matter. It definitely looked like they changed the definition from gross negligence to extreme carelessness, so it wouldn't be a legal issue. It just did not look like that they were trying to find fault as part of their investigation. Well, the reverse is true with the Russian-Trump investigation. They're definitely trying to find fault, and they're trying to find fault even if it has nothing to do with Russian collusion. You just have to witness what they're doing to Paul Manafort, which has nothing to do with anything between the Trump campaign and Russia. So the Inspector General, Horowitz, went to Congress and tried to keep a straight face and said he saw no bias, even though he had 500 pages of examples of bias in his report. And it was a good report. It was thorough. There were some things that were in there that were interesting that we didn't know about, like Comey using a private email server. We've mentioned in the past also, I had mentioned since 2015 that Obama had also corresponded with Hillary Clinton from that private server, which meant he was aware of it, even though he said, first time I heard about it was on the news, which is not true. He was using it. So it appears that there was definitely a double standard. They were allowing the FBI to, well, they weren't allowing, the FBI itself at the top levels was basically allowing Hillary Clinton to skate, and then they shifted their focus over to the Russian investigation. Now, the reason I've been saying for the past few months that Mueller will wind this up is because I had predicted before the IG report came out, and this is before I knew that the IG report was only going to be about the Clinton email investigation. I thought it was going to cover both the Clinton email investigation and the Russian investigation and the FISA warrants and the leaks. And when I found that it was only going to cover the Clinton email investigation, I thought, oh, well, then maybe Mueller won't want to back down. However, there was one point in the reason I thought he'd want to back down was because it would show the taint of Comey, Rosenstein, Strzok, Page, and McCabe in their handling of the Russian investigation due to their bias. But what we saw in the Hillary Clinton email investigation IG report, there was one point where they did connect the two. And this is where it's problematic for Mueller. And I had said that Mueller would not want to be the special counsel if it's shown that he was appointed under, in a sense, false pretenses on the basis of bias, which is shown in there. Now, what was the basis of bias for the Trump investigation, the special counsel relating to that? Was Horowitz was asked a question. He said his report was focused on the Clinton email investigation because Congress was chomping at the bit to get him to say stuff about the unyet finished report, unyet published report on the Russian investigation. He said it only places it touches the Russian matters with regard to the text messages and then the October decision about the Wiener laptop. It was clear that the Wiener laptop was available to the FBI for a month. And of course, you would think this would be a big deal. And Comey was he was on TV once. They asked him, why wouldn't you get that laptop given that Huma Abedin's husband was Wiener? And he said, well, really? They were married? Like, he didn't know that. And maybe, I don't know. If you're not looking for something and you're trying to exonerate something, well, I guess you conveniently forget things or pretend you don't know about them. But that laptop was available. And they appeared, according to some of the text by Strzok, was let's get on to this Russian investigation. So it looked like they basically wanted to wrap up the Hillary Clinton email investigation, basically without even looking at what they should be looking at. They hadn't even interviewed Hillary Clinton yet. They'd already said, unless she lies or contradicts anything, we're going to exonerate her. So they clearly were looking to end that and then get chomping at the bit for the Russian investigation, when there was indeed far more investigation and far more actual pieces of evidence that they either had or easily could have obtained, like the DNC server. They didn't pound down doors. They didn't issue subpoenas. They gave people immunity, all types of things that you would not do if you were actually serious about an investigation. So my point is, now that Mueller is going guns a-blazing, knocking down doors with SWAT teams, it clearly appears that he is, and we saw it today or yesterday, the Wall Street Journal picked up on something I've been saying, the investigation is the fruit of the poison tree, which is what seems like the collusion at the top levels of the FBI to exonerate Hillary Clinton and go after Trump. Now, that was considered a conspiracy theory. Joseph DeGeno had raised it, but it really wasn't, because before the report came out, you were able to piece this together. And now with the report, it's a lot easier to piece it together. And Horowitz actually put the two pieces together. He clearly admitted there was a link between what amount of attention and effort they were going to put into the Hillary Clinton email, i.e. none relating to the Wiener laptop, and why they were already the top brass. But the people that were involved with the Hillary Clinton email investigation were the same people that were going to be involved in the Russian investigation. So they basically dropped the ball on one because they wanted to go after Trump on the other, and that was a, quote, insurance policy. All right, so the reason I mention all that is I think it ties into the idea that we're seeing a big division in the country. We're seeing the idea that you're either for us or against us, and that Trump is a Nazi and anyone who votes for him is a Nazi, and Trump detains children. There's really a ratcheting up of the rhetoric against Trump, and they don't want to look at the actual clear bias that occurred at the FBI. So it's a very clever media manipulation that's going on right now, in my opinion. Now, Strzok was escorted from the building on Friday, and they say he's also, last Friday, has also had his security clearance pulled. Now, if you think of what's happened so far, you've lost Baker, one of the attorneys, Page is paramour, Strzok has been demoted, he's in HR, he's probably going to go. McCabe was fired, McCabe is under criminal referral, Comey was fired. You've got all these top FBI guys removed from their positions. And then you have Rosenstein justifying the firing, he's now the Attorney General, of Comey based on how he thought Comey mishandled the Clinton email investigation. The problem with Rosenstein, he's into it up to his ears too. He signed off on the FISA warrants, which have not yet become the subject of an IG report because that report hasn't come out yet. But where Rosenstein, he might be in trouble there, but where he's going to be in trouble is if he hasn't turned over the documents that they've asked for because Congress is making noise about holding him in contempt or actually impeaching him. All right, so that's what's happening with the investigation. Horowitz went and basically they asked him questions about his report. Well, here's something interesting is with Comey, it turned out from the report that he was using Gmail for FBI work. Now, Horowitz couldn't conclude that he ever sent anything classified, but the reason he couldn't conclude that was he didn't have access to the documents because he's not a prosecutor. He can't subpoena documents. But my question is, if Comey actually was, and he was fired, he's actually considered a bad actor. And you would think that they should subpoena those documents. And if he doesn't hand them over, or even if he does, they should do what they did to Manafort. They should SWAT team him and go and collect those documents, because it's possible now that the FBI, head of the FBI, was transferring very sensitive information. We don't know this, but he hasn't told us, and we haven't had the proof that he hasn't done it. There could be sensitive information that was transferred on his Gmail account. And that seems to be lost to everybody. No one's making a big deal out of that. Just, oh, it's a big deal because, you know, the irony of Comey investigating Clinton, and he's doing the same thing. Ha, 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 isn't he a jerk? No. The issue is, if it's serious for Hillary Clinton, it's serious for him too. It doesn't get minimized by the fact that they both did it. And here's where I learned that Mills, Abedin, none of these people, Clinton herself, were listed as a subject of the investigation. So that basically shows they weren't serious about it. And this guy Strzok, he's still getting a paycheck even though he's escorted from the building. And the other thing what was interesting that came out in the report was the "We must stop Trump, I will stop Trump" Strzok text had been lost, was never turned over to Congress, was never part of the last 3 or 4 months review. Just came out in the report. Now, why do they do that? Interestingly enough, they try to make it sound like they withhold documents because they're national security. There's no national security in there. The reason they withhold them is because they look like jackasses, or worse, when they reveal these types of things. They showed the clear bias. So there is Strzok lost his security clearance. Now, Peter Strzok is responsible for creating the Russian collusion narrative. That's the collusion itself, is the FBI creating the Russian collusion narrative. And so many people believe it. So many people, because they hate Trump, they want to believe it. Putin's puppet. They just spout this stuff, and you ask them based on what? Same with not Peter Schiff, the other guy Schiff, the Congressman Schiff. He says it all the time. We've got evidence, we got documents. Can't say who, can't say where, but it's more than circumstantial, but not. Yeah, where is it? What is the connection? They're really just trying to undermine him by creating, it's almost like a whisper campaign of innuendo so that enough people will believe. They can't believe that Hillary Clinton lost. And the only reason she could have lost to an orange buffoon like Trump was that the Russians helped him. But there's no evidence of that. And when they indicted the Russian troll farm, they even admitted that troll farm wasn't working with the Russian campaign. They were acting on their own. They were just trying to mess up with the election. In fact, if you're really concerned about Russian interference or any foreign interference in the election, you don't just investigate the Trump campaign. You investigate Jill Stein. You investigate the 1% Bernie Sanders. You investigate Hillary. You investigate people around them. But instead, they're just going after, and you don't even, Paul Manafort was with the campaign for a month. There's probably other people in the campaign you'd want to investigate more than Paul Manafort, but they figure they can get him on something. And there's DeSantis. All right. And here's the Wall Street Journal saying Robert Mueller's investigation is tainted by the bias that attended its origin in 2016. Now, this is something I've been saying for months, and it's why I thought the Mueller investigation would end before the IG report came out. But I thought that was because the Russian investigation IG report was coming out, which would include the Hillary Clinton email investigation IG report. It only included the Hillary Clinton email investigation, so that's why he didn't bow out. There's no way this thing, unless he's got a smoking gun, that when the time the Russian investigation IG report comes out, he wants to be the special prosecutor, because then it'll be even more obvious. Because we already know how the FISA warrants, what the basis of the FISA warrants were. They were based on the phony dossier that was written by Christopher Steele, who admitted under oath that it was fake, and then he was also fired by the FBI. So if that's the basis under which they decided they were going to do total surveillance on the Trump campaign, Mueller's going to look bad. And Mueller he's at an age where he can't afford to look ridiculous. He doesn't want to look like an idiot. So I think at some point he's going to find a deal where he can back out of this thing gracefully. He already looks kind of foolish investigating a Russian troll farm and trying to prosecute them when he wasn't ready to prosecute them, but he was ready to give a press release about prosecuting them. They've recently added 3 attorneys to that deal to see what they can do. Yeah, so this thing was a big deal until they decided it was all about the children on the border and Trump being a Nazi. It's unbelievable. Not that the issue at the border isn't an issue, but it's always been an issue. And what's also always been an issue is anytime parents are separated from the children for committing crimes, federal crimes, that's the law. But here you have it where, and again, it's not to say one set of children are more important than the other, but they're focused on it more as if it's more important because they are non-Americans, because somehow that reflects on who we are. Who we are. But it equally reflects on who we are when you separate children from criminally accused parents in the United States, U.S. parents. So this thing is, obviously, it's an emotional issue, and the good and the bad news about emotional issues is they don't last. That's the good news. The bad news is you get irrationality like you can't believe. Someone must do something, and someone does something. That's not enough. Basically, if you treat policy issues on pure emotion, you end up with a mess. Because Trump, by signing an executive order ending the separation of the children from their families, which apparently goes against the Supreme Court decision, but put that aside, by having the children together, now they can say, oh, but now they're together in concentration camps. You can't win with this. There has to be, and many have said, both on the Democrat and Republican side, but only the Democrats said this before Trump was about, that you need a comprehensive solution to this. You can't be signing, I don't think you should be signing executive orders and half enforcing the law and sometimes enforcing the law, or then saying we're not going to enforce the law with executive order. That's a mess. But it's created a big distraction from this. Again, the FBI mess is a serious mess too. When you have this level of bias at the top, amongst the top people at the FBI, and they think it's their job to influence the winner or loser of the presidential election by helping Hillary Clinton not get indicted, and then by making sure that Trump has tanked over him if he does get elected. And in fact, the reason that Comey gave, he said this isn't interpretation, the reason he finally decided to come clean with the Weiner emails, which was because he wanted to say he looked at them, he cleared them, so that when she became president, people wouldn't have that hanging over her head. So he was taking into consideration political considerations when he made that announcement, which in retrospect might have hurt Hillary. He comes out and he says, we're going to look at this, the investigation's back over. And then I think he looks like not a professional investigator, because a week later, they didn't go through all the, well, nothing to see here, and it's back on. The damage was already done, but he figured there wasn't any damage done. She was going to win anyway, and now everyone can point to the FBI did its job. They looked at it. Hillary now has a, there's not going to be any overhang here, because Comey's still going to be the director of the FBI. Strzok is still going to be there. Page is going to be there. Baker's going to be there. McCabe, they're all going to be there. And none of this will ever come up other than people complaining, and then they'll appear like conspiracy theorists. All right. So I think now they're saying Strzok may appear to testify in Congress next week. He's playing the victim in all this, that they're biased against him now. That's an interesting concept. This is the troll farm. They need 3 more attorneys to prosecute the troll farm. Now, first, never mind. The whole thing is ridiculous that they're still chasing down a troll farm. Supreme Court pays way to allow allow out-of-state realtors to collect tax. I wrote that wrong, but the idea being that back in 1994, there was a law case that basically said you can't force an out-of-state retailer, even if he's on the internet, to collect tax in a state in which he doesn't have a physical presence. So that allowed companies, especially Amazon, to sell into all 50 states and never collect the tax. The issue has always been, and most people don't know this, they're not intentionally scoffing the law, but they are when they don't pay the tax. So if you buy something and you live in Texas and you buy something in Arkansas, forget the internet, you just go over there and buy it. Under most states, when you buy it, and let's say Arkansas doesn't charge you tax, when you bring it into Texas, you owe tax. Or if you buy anything you buy in a tax-free state, Arkansas is not one of them. There's 5 of them. There's Alaska, Oregon, New Hampshire, 2 others. When you buy something from those states, you don't get it tax-free. You only get it tax-free if you live in the state. If you bring it back into your state, you're supposed to pay tax. Now what they're saying is they're requiring also when you bought from Amazon, they didn't charge you tax, and you brought it into your state, and your tax has a retail sales tax, you're supposed to pay it. Most people don't even know about it, or if they do know about it, don't pay. Well, now they're going back, and they are trying to find, some states are trying to find out if they can get the names of the people and their purchases and actually apply that tax to them. But what the court did in the most recent case, it overruled the first case, I think it was Quill, and it said that physical presence is no longer required to require an out-of-state retailer, realtor sells real estate, retailer sells retail products, to make them collect tax. This way, it's perfectly clear to the person who's buying goods that this isn't a tax-free zone anymore. Never was, but now they're going to make it so that the onus is on the retailer to charge the tax or collect the tax for the state. And that's what Oregon was doing. There's a bunch of different states that have already tried to make, but their cases have not been heard by the Supreme Court. The one that was passed was the one that the Supreme Court said did pass muster was from South Dakota. I think it said you had to have $100,000 worth of sales. Other states say $10,000 worth of sales and just some type of internet affiliate, and they want that affiliate to collect tax. So we'll see where that goes, but it looks like for people who are buying things online and thinking that there was no tax, those days will be coming to an end over the next year probably, as states start to draft new legislation to require out-of-state retailers, online retailers, to charge tax in accordance with their state. All right. President Trump and his Space Force, we'll have to see where that goes. India discusses oil buyers club with China, seeks U.S. crew to counter OPEC times of India. Again, the United States is becoming a massive gold exporter. You talk about the petrodollar, end of the petrodollar. If the United States becomes, been saying it now for 4 years, a large oil exporter, if you need oil as the basis to back the dollar, well, you're getting it, because the United States will be at some point later this year or next year, the #1 oil exporter, surpassing Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia will still provide a basis for the petrodollar because they're still only pricing their oil in dollars and charging dollars for it. Now countries will need dollars to buy oil from Saudi Arabia and the United States. Got that one there twice. There's the dollar hegemony. End of dollar hegemony. Game changer. Russia, unsustainable, gold-backed yuan. You hear this all the time. No one stops to think. Tonight on the Smaulgld live stream, we're going to talk about confirmation biases and whether you're hedged against them. I'm going to play a clip from something I did a couple of years ago. Still relevant today, I believe. We join in at 8 o'clock tonight. So now here's another one. 95% of manufacturers bullish on future. This is a survey that's been going on for 28 years. It's the highest ever. It's going to be hard to beat Trump with a good economy, and that's why Bill Maher is saying he wants the economy to crater, because the ranting that you see, the harassing, the resistance, that only goes over well with, I would say, a segment of the population that is politically motivated and thinks and breathes and eats politics. That's why they're on Facebook. They constantly have a point of view. Middle America, when I say middle America, I don't mean the people that live in middle America. I'm just talking about, there's no such thing as the average person, but I'm saying there's a large number of people who either eschew politics or they don't even, they think about it here and there, but when they think about it, if they see something that turns them off, that makes their decision. They're not really involved. Oh, Reagan was nice, I'll vote for him. I like the way Clinton said, I'll feel your pain. They vote for him. They're not really paying attention. But when they see this resistance and these things where they kick people out of restaurants and they harass people, for most civil society, they don't view themselves as resisting anything. They're just going to work. They're just doing their job. They might not be right-wing or left-wing. They're right in the middle of the road. They really don't care. But they probably don't want to be associated with that type of behavior. So it's actually a turnoff. They may think that the resistance is growing, but it's not going to grow to 50%. It's not going to grow where half the country makes it their business to run around and every time they hear the word Trump to yell Nazi, to harass people, to punch people. That's not going to happen. At least I don't think it would happen. I've seen people that are resistors and I've seen people that are Trumpers. And I would say they're about equal. There are people out there that's all I think about. MAGA, 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 Trump, Trump, Trump. And there's people out there resist, resist, resist. But the election is won at the middle. And whoever makes, I think, a bigger jackass out of themselves loses. And I think the resist stuff turns off a lot of people. It turns on people who are leaning that way. And the MAGA thing turns on people who believe that Trump is the Messiah. But it seems to me, just looking at it objectively, that the resistance stuff is something that the average person might not want to be associated with. They might not want to be associated with wearing red hats and yelling, build a wall or lock her up. But that is not as offensive to the civil society that some of the other things that the resistance does. Today, Maxine Waters on TV saying that these people that work for Trump, they got to be harassed daily. I don't know if people thought, like, let's harass Obama's appointees anywhere they go. That never entered into the... People were against Obama and they didn't like him, but it never was to the level where we're going to boo people off the stage, we're going to harass them at dinner if they happen to be working for Obama. At least there may be people who did that. But it's much more open. You see it on TV, them saying, this is what we need to do. And I think the way you resist is you point out your alternative vision. If your vision is you just want to get rid of the guy, that's no vision at all, because who knows what you get. And the problem is you see what you might get. This uncivil behavior, instead of saying we want when Bush said kinder, gentler nation, something. What is the repeal and replace of Trump? If it's mob rule, I don't think most people are going to go for that. That's just my advice to how to resist. All right. Petrodollar backed by oil. You can see, look at the United States. Boom, just more and more oil going up, going up. Now, Russia dumps treasuries. I covered that. A lot of the stories in this week's Week in Review, you can go back and you can, if there's a particular news story, chances are I covered it at length during the week on the Smaulgld blog and on the BitChute and YouTubes. So I'm not going to go over the Russian gold reserve. You can check out the charts. You can see they got more gold now than they have U.S. treasuries, which is quite interesting. Lots of stuff on the tariffs. We've talked about that before. The tariffs are interesting because, again, I view them as a negotiation, not as some permanent solution of protectionism. They're really there to try to get to a more balanced trade where the tariffs are somewhat equal. But of course, if you're a free trader, you think Trump is messing up. If you're against Trump, you think whatever he's doing is screwing up the world order. All right. So China's not happy about us. We'll see this happen now. Matteo Salvini. Now this guy is I think he's some type of, he's a minister in the Italian, but I think he's in charge of the immigration, or I don't know. He says, abbiamo finito di fare gli zerbini. Basically saying we are done being doormats, and he turned away, prima l'Italia. Basically, this is America first over in Italy. This guy is saying we don't need more immigrants. And then he said something like, we're going to go quartieri di quartieri. We're going to go neighborhood to neighborhood and remove immigrants. So interesting things going on in Europe. You're getting this backlash. Probably never should have happened. It seems like the migrants were forced upon them. There's always sensible immigration policy. It's just not sensible to bring in millions in a short period of time, especially if there's no plan. I mean, you can bring in millions if you say, okay, you see all that work out there? That's what they're coming here for. But just to bring them in, it seems what they've done. I don't see I mean, they say that they're there to, I mean, there is, you do want immigrants if your population is aging, you need people to work. But when you hear the statistics that they're not coming in to fill any work need, you have high unemployment in Italy. And so it's not like there's jobs for the immigrants, and it's like, why would they even want to go there? I just don't understand what the purpose of, they're not political refugees, they're not, for the most part, they're not seeking asylum, they're just, this might be a better place to live. Maybe, but there's got to be something there for you to do. So Italy turned this boat around, then it went to Spain, and we'll see what happens there. All right, well, this I'm not going to show you, but a Chinese decoration fell on those poor people's heads. All right, so now on the crypto scene, the crypto scene is cratering. The gold and silver scene is basically flat. So I asked a couple of questions during the week in a poll. This one, are cryptos done? Let's just see. Let's say, yes, they've already peaked. Let's see what people think, whether cryptos are finished. And the survey says, nope, they're just taking a break. 54 votes, 67. 2/3 of the people think that this is just another blip on the radar screen. Just an 80% drop. Nothing to see here. Then I asked the question again. Later in the week, crypto prices have fallen 70 to 90%. Buying now would be a huge buying opportunity or just throwing money away. And what do we get? They fell further after the first poll. Oh, more than half. A huge buying opportunity on the cryptos. The rest of the stories here, we've got Litecoin going to have a summit in San Francisco, the first ever Litecoin summit in September. We're seeing people spending Bitcoin on paintings, big ticket items like real estate. There's your Bitcoin ATM. Interesting, Mt. Gox halts bankruptcy, won't sell any more Bitcoin until 2019. Fred, have anyone do use the Federal Reserve charts, the Fred charts? They're now tracking Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bcash, and Ethereum on their website. And I don't think these things are going away. I mean, the Fed wouldn't be covering them. They wouldn't be trying to regulate them, but they'd be trying to just ban them outright. Bitcoin, though, here is 5,800. Let's see where the price is right now. Price of Bitcoin. Whoa. Bitcoin's ratcheted up to 6,200 or so. And Litecoin is at 8,100, so they $81. So they've moved up. Bank of Korea says if you have a central bank cryptocurrency, that poses a moral hazard, has no plans to issue one. I think that's smart. Sweden recognized also eliminating cash isn't too bright. They said they get invaded by Russia, and Russia takes over their central bank. Boom, they're done. They have no way to, quote, resist because they don't have any cash. Goldman Sachs CEO says Bitcoin's not for me, but not too arrogant to say that it doesn't have a future. Here's a small bank is making lots of money by handling millions for crypto clients. So that's interesting. There's a bank willing to take on crypto clients. The reason they say for these falls in cryptocurrencies the last week or so, these hacks on Korean exchanges, Charlie Lee, the guy who invented, well, he basically just cut and paste the Bitcoin, a few other changes, but code to make Litecoin. He says the hack doesn't really change the fundamentals of Bitcoin. He's right, but it does undermine confidence in the exchanges, and that's where a lot of the pricing happens. I think what happens is he says if someone robs a bank, that doesn't make the dollar worth less. That's true, but I think what happens is when an exchange gets hacked, people they sell their coins on the exchange, causing the thing to go lower because they're worried theirs are going to get stolen. They don't remove them off the exchange, they just sell them, and I think that's what knocks it out. Here's one funny one. Tether is real. Unofficial report confirms Tether's tokens are fully backed by US dollars. This is supposedly good news, but I think it's no news because they did show a bank account with $2.5 billion in it. Okay, that's how many Tether supposedly issued. But it wasn't done by an auditor. You don't know really. And the issue for me is it was done by their law firm. Well, having your law firm give that type of assurance is like getting a note from your mother. Because a law firm could never. They'd be acting against their client's interests, saying, well, there's really nothing here. My client's committing a fraud. They couldn't do that. The only thing they can do is narrowly tailor something and still be considered a zealous advocate for their client. They can't. So the fact that their lawyer basically did the research and said, look, it's all here, means nothing to me. All right. So they claim everything is there. Nothing to see here. And I had covered, if you're interested in a full analysis of the Tether controversy, you can click there. I've gone through it. People think that's a big deal. All right, not so much. We need to get to gold and silver pumpers and Bitcoin pumpers. There are a few good. Here's an interesting one. Rats reportedly destroy all these rupees, these lakhs, an ATM. So while you can't eat gold, looks like you can eat cash. All right, let's get to gold pumper, silver pumper, Bitcoin pumper, Litecoin pumper. What did we have this week? What did we have this week in Bitcoin pumps? Let me just scroll through. You can check out all these stories on your own. Oh, here's one. Silver demand could fall if Chinese solar installations decline. Okay, Bitcoin pumper. Let's see. Bitcoin pump from crypto expert. Crypto boss says Bitcoin will go way beyond record highs for this reason. I'm sure you need to know. It's going to skyrocket. Here I asked, is an echo bubble coming in cryptos this year? And let's see what people say. Our survey says no. 54%. Only 24 voted on that one. You can count on fast money and Brian Kelly for a Bitcoin pump. We tried to have a funeral for Bitcoin. This is an official CBS Fast Money Twitter account as it fell below 6K. But he's still a believer. Here's why he thinks cryptocurrency will resurrect. The reason he believes that is because he's got his money tied up and he's running a crypto fund. I can't believe they allow that kind of pumping directly on CNBC. Now, I asked the question, if it was easy for the pumpers to drive Bitcoin from 3,000 to 20,000, why wouldn't they do it again? Maybe they can't because of futures, but who knows? There's a Litecoin pump. Charlie Lee was on there talking about if he was buying, he would buy now. And that explains why Bitcoin and other cryptos will be higher. It'll drive it higher. This is the best crypto pump of the week. Cointelegraph. According to the co-founder of Cardano, Wall Street's growing interest in cryptocurrencies will unlock tens of trillions of dollars. Game changer. Game over for fiat. Gold pumper. Is gold set to launch? 56% said no. Let's see. Dollar collapse. Here's one you never heard before. A bold prediction. The system is going to go down. Never heard that one before. That's the pump of the gold week. Silver pumper. Is silver ready to skyrocket? Nope. Well, there you go. That about does it, I believe. You got some central bank stuff here. It's the Bank of America fines. No big deal. They pay them all the time. Bank of England not raising rates. And the pound went up because they said they might raise rates. Well, thank you very much for listening. If you're interested in buying precious metals, please consider doing so through the Smaulgld site or through the links below this BitChute and YouTube. You can compare pricing and shipping at Golden Eagle Coin, SD Bullion, and Money Metals Exchange. Not investment advice, but if you do click on those links, and you can compare pricing and shipping, and if you do buy, Smaulgld gets a small commission. Also, please consider becoming a Smaulgld patron at Patreon and or donating via PayPal, Bitcoin, Litecoin, or Ethereum. Links all below this, or even on your screen below this BitChute, YouTube, and on the Smaulgld site. Thank you very much.